What's up, everybody? This is Devin White, linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You're listening to the LCC Network. Go Bucks.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse on the LCC Network. Oh man, I've got an echo. At least on mine. Let me turn this off real quick. Alright, now we're good. Welcome to the Commissioner's Clubhouse, everyone, for episode 16 of the fantasy offseason here in the LCC. We are past the developmental draft in the LCC, past the NFL draft. We are very close to the NFL schedule reveal, which is always fun. Or at least it's fun for me, at least. I'm planning on doing an away game this year, so looking forward to that. But anyways, a Panther away game, that is. We have got an interesting episode, so it's just me tonight. So it should be a fairly quick episode, so that's nice. You know, I think that that'd be kind of cool. After last week's episode, it took a lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears went in that thing. Probably the most fun I've had actually recording an episode all off season, but it was definitely the most difficult at the same time. So probably much needed, less prepared episode, definitely for sure. And this episode pretty much this is our draft reaction show, NFL draft reaction show, and kind of just talking about here, my thoughts on how things went from a fantasy perspective, and maybe some rookies that I'm really interested in drafting myself, or guys that I think other people should be looking out for sure, depending on your positional needs and what you're able to put into the rookie draft here. And speaking of that, we are only like a month away, I want to say. Let me pull up my handy dandy deadline document real quick, just so I can take a look at this. All right, so we don't have anything after the keeper deadline this Sunday, by the way, 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. Get those keepers in. If you don't, and we haven't heard from you this offseason, I'm just going to assume you're not returning. Cough, cough. Matt McCarson, I haven't heard from you, dude, like all offseason. Hope you return, but if not, no big deal. And in June, though, actually a month from the day, is the rookie draft commitment deadline. So what that is the deadline for you to get your rookie picks in to commit to the rookie draft, right? That's the only way you can actually participate, is to put those picks in, and you don't have to use them, obviously, once it starts. You can just pass. You're not forced to take a player, but you're limited to just 3 picks. So a month from that, a couple days from the keeper deadline, so it's going to be exciting. I think I don't know if you're going to see a whole lot more trades this weekend, but I want to say probably getting closer to the rookie draft, you might see a handful of trades get pulled around that time. And I'm going to apologize now, guys. My allergies are kicking my butt today. We're officially in May, so early May is usually pretty brutal for me. But so let's get this thing started. Let's talk about some rookie reactions. This isn't even the sound drop I wanted, but I'm going to roll with it. Backyard Football. It's like one of the best sports-themed songs ever created. I'm just going to let it play until it ends. But so let's start it off here. So obviously running back is highly valued in this league and pretty much every fantasy league, regardless if it's IDP or if it's, just a regular redraft league, basically. Running backs are always highly valued, and especially in our league, what is a 24-team league, and every single week at least 24 running backs are getting started as an RB1. In some cases, there might be a team starting multiple, which means you've got probably closer to 30 running backs starting every week. So, it's an important position, needless to say. So let's just start there with some rookies that I'm really interested in. I mean, everyone's rookie rankings across the board right now Brees Hall is the hands down favorite. I don't know anyone who's saying he's not their number one guy. And just, dynasty formats as a whole, he is the universal number one for the most part. I'm just looking at Fantasy Pros rankings right now. One expert has him ranked as low as 3, but the majority have him ranked as the number one best rookie player. And obviously they're doing offense; they're not including IDP in there. But I would, I would easily put him above any IDP player as well, regardless of anyone's scoring format in any league. So Brees Hall, landing spot, New York Jets, perfect. I know people are like, well, they use a committee in New York. Well, dude, you don't get Brees Hall that early in the draft with the second round pick, unless you're really committed to this guy. And I think that's what the Jets have done here. I think Brees, he's going to be great. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. I know I'm not going to get him because he's probably going to go with the first round pick in our draft, the way people usually, ante up for those. And I don't blame him. Brees is 100% worth it. I'd argue he's possibly worth 101, honestly. There are going to be some running backs actually entering the draft, assuming no late trades happen. But I would argue here that he's probably the best one. One guy I'm thinking of right now who should be there, depending on, again, keepers and trades and stuff, is I'm losing my mind right now. I literally had just looked him up. I'll circle back to that later. Sorry. It's like 10 o'clock right now as I'm recording this. But I'm going to just move on down my list here. I really like Kenneth Walker as my number 2. He was also the second running back drafted, went to Seattle. Just a great landing spot, I feel like. They don't have a lot of offensive weapons, and I know that does mean that Kenneth Walker could have the box stacked around him, which is not a good thing, and they still don't have a great offensive line in Seattle. But I think Kenneth is a long-term solution because I think Seattle will end up having a pretty rough season this year and probably be able to get a decent quarterback next year's draft. So I think Kenneth Walker is you're investing in yourself long-term if you draft him. Even if he's like the day one starter, I think, temper your expectations a little bit with him because I do think it'll take a little bit for him to put up big boy numbers in fantasy leagues everywhere. My other guy, and I'm crazy for saying this because I am in the extreme minority here for having him as my RB3 for fantasy leagues everywhere, for rookie fantasy leagues. And that's really just because of the situation. I really love Dameon Pierce. Coming out of Florida, went to the Houston Texans in the 4th round, the first running back selected in the 4th round. Houston just doesn't have a lot going for him, man. Most people do not have him in their top 3. The majority of people, and I get it. They're such a destitute franchise right now that if teams are going to stack the box against Seattle, they're definitely going to do it against Houston because they just don't have a great anything like offensive line, passing game, like nothing. Which sucks for Pierce, but I'm really, really high on him. I'm not saying you need to get him with the first, second round pick, but I think I would be willing to pay. What's the most to be willing to pay? I'm in a unique situation. I've got multiple third round picks, so I don't mind overreaching for a guy because of that, but I don't know if I would use a third round pick. It might be a little bit later. And that's probably where he would go anyways, is later. But I love Dameon Pierce as my number 3 back. But I think most people have James Cook as their third back, who was also selected in the 2nd round. But here's the deal, dude. Like, Buffalo, they already have a running back, RB1, and it's their quarterback, for God's sakes. Josh Allen, he runs so much that I don't know how much James Cook adds a whole lot of value to Buffalo's offense. And not that he's not a great running back, it's just like, dude, it hurts his value, the way they run their offense. And no knock on Buffalo. It works, keep doing what you're doing, man. But James Cook is a guy I'm a little worried about. I think he's going to go earlier than he should. I wouldn't be surprised if he does go in the third round. I think Kenneth Walker is another potential first-round pick in our rookie draft, actually. We'll see if that happens. And then Rashad White coming out of Arizona State, going to Tampa. People, have him pretty high. He was drafted in the third round, relatively early. But one guy, man, I just really don't like his situation, but I loved him in college, is Brian Robinson Jr. out of Alabama, drafted in the third round by the Washington football team. And I'm like, dude, you guys already had a decent running back. Like, I don't know how he gets involved. I just really wonder. I really wonder if he's going to be utilized at all significantly for you to use a rookie draft pick. And while we're on the topic of guys you may not need to get in the rookie draft, you can probably get them in free agency once the season starts. Is Zamir White, the other running back from Georgia, who went to the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think the Raiders have really invested much into the run game for the most part. I know they already have kind of like a committee, so to speak, but I do think White could take that backfield probably at the end of the season. It's going to take a while, and he's not a guy I would get in the rookie draft, but he's definitely a guy that I would monitor, going through training camp into the regular draft. And then, if he's not drafted, look at him in the early weeks of free agency. You can consider adding him as a backup if you have a comfortable RB1. And even if you do, like, let's say if you're Cameron, right, and, you've got Derrick Henry as your running back, I don't think you need to get Zamir White, although you can get him pretty late. I just think it's going to take a minute for him to do much. And unless you're really comfortable handcuffing yourself to a guy who's going to get hardly anything the first half of the season, maybe even longer, then I don't know. But that's it for running backs. I don't want to make this a running back show, but obviously it's an important position, so that's why I covered several players there. Let's go ahead and move on to receiver. And me personally, I am not big on rookie receivers ever. I just don't think it's worth it. There's some exceptions to that rule, obviously. But generally speaking, I think the majority of dynasty leagues and leagues that do rookie drafts like ours typically overpay for a rookie receiver. I just think that receivers can be a dime a dozen in any fantasy league, and sometimes in ours too. So I just don't see a whole lot of value in spending a whole lot for a rookie receiver. Like, if you do it, I wouldn't do it anywhere before like the 7th round, probably. But of course, like, pretty much the majority of people, I would say, have Drake Landon as the number one guy. Went to Atlanta. There's not a lot there, obviously, receiving core due to offseason changes and everything else. But Drake Landon doesn't have a legitimate quarterback, and that's what worries me about Drake. He's not a guy I think that you could really plug in and have a lot of success with early on, maybe as the year goes on and stuff. But I kind of worry about Drake Landon just being a guy who's a dud on your offense for a long period of time this season. Now, here's a guy I'm actually more excited about, and I would argue he deserves to be the number one rookie receiver in most people rankings, and it's Garrett Wilson with the Jets. Garrett Wilson, I know that we have bashed the Jets quarterback situation year after year, and there's reason behind that, right? I mean, look at Mark Sanchez. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. I mean, he hasn't panned out well in Carolina, and I'm not like a Darnold hater like some people are, but they just have a long history of bad quarterback play. You know what I mean? So I just, but with that said, I do think Zach Wilson is in a situation where maybe he can do a little bit more. He averaged 24 points in our league last season, which isn't much. He only broke 30 plus. He did it 4 times last season, but he was also hurt for several weeks as well. I think that Zach Wilson, man, like his issue, honestly, like even if I think if he would have landed in a better spot, he would have had a better rookie season. But I'm really interested to see, how does Garrett Wilson get used? Because, if Zach Wilson turns out to be the guy, Garrett Wilson's like his future. They're going to go hand in hand. So I think if you even slightly believe in him, go get Garrett Wilson as a rookie receiver potentially. And then the other one, and I don't know, this I feel like right around here is where it gets kind of murky. You could go in a couple different ways at the third receiver. You could either probably argue Treylon Burks in Tennessee now, or I think you could also make an argument for Chris Olave, who's now in New Orleans. And I think his situation is really interesting because Jameis Winston has a history of supporting wide receiver ones. Like, we give Jameis Winston hell. His NFL career has been subpar at best. He's goofy. He's entertaining, I guess, but no one takes him serious. But you do take his receivers serious for the most part. Like Michael Thomas, Mike Evans. Like, he's done well supporting those receivers for fantasy purposes. So that does get me excited about Chris Olave. And we honestly have not heard a whole lot about Alvin Kamara lately. And I just wonder, as we get closer to, to training camp, like, are we going to get a ruling from the NFL that's like a suspension type deal, or is he going to play? I mean, he literally like stopped a dude. He like curb stopped a dude like in a hotel. Like, I don't know how he doesn't get suspended for that when guys have been suspended for far less. I think that would be pretty outrageous. But if he does, I think that just kind of supports Chris's role there in New Orleans. So there's kind of my top receivers. I could do a tight ends, but I just don't know. Like, Trey McBride is probably the best, and he's in Arizona. I don't know, dude. It's not worth getting him in the rookie drafts. I'm not gonna really talk about him. Maybe you pick him up through free agency in the regular season if you need a guy and you're in a desperate situation, like I tend to be a receiver. But we're not even gonna go there. We'll just keep it rolling. Quarterbacks, I'm going to kind of skip that too because this is going to be the first year in LCC history, I think, where we don't see a single rookie quarterback get drafted in the rookie draft. Like, Kenny Pickett's probably the only guy, in my opinion, who might have a shot at starting week 1, maybe if he beats out Mitch Trubisky. But honestly, like, I think the Steelers more than likely, if they're smart, let Pickett sit for a few weeks, man, and really absorb everything, because I think you tend to have more success rate with quarterbacks, especially rookie quarterbacks, if they have time to, sit back, learn the playbook a little bit longer, learn the game from the sidelines, because the game in the NFL is very different than college. We all know that. The speed is the big thing there. And I think it's going to take him a little bit of time, but I just don't think he's worth drafting in the rookie draft as a result. In our rookie draft, at least, because you can only roster one quarterback. So why in the world would you take a risk on a guy like Kenny Pickett? So that's all I'll say there about quarterbacks. So let's just move on to IDP. I think this is really what I'm more interested in anyways, because I think that's the main reason I play fantasy now is just because IDP. I just think it's so much fun. My number one guy, and everyone's number one guy, Aiden Hutchinson, going to Detroit from Michigan. He is just a freak of nature, man. I can't believe the fact they got him at the 102 thanks to the Jaguars. It just blows my mind, because I think Aiden Hutchinson should have been the 101, and he had been projected the 101 for a little bit. So, yes, I think Aiden Hutchinson, if our draft class and waiver wire class this offseason wasn't so thick with defensive line depth as a whole, I think Aiden Hutchinson is easily worth a third round pick. With that said, I would try, if I were you, I would try to get him a little bit later, maybe the 4th round, just because there's just so much depth out there, man. Like, trust me, I think once you see it in the waiver wire after the keeper deadline, you'll get what I'm saying. There's going to be a good bit. I don't think you need to rush out to get Aiden Hutchinson early on, unless you just really like the guy. I think you could probably wait to the 4th round to get him, although I wouldn't be surprised if someone gets him in the 3rd round, but definitely not before then. That really would be overpaying. Next up, for me, I really like Devin Lloyd out of Jacksonville. Mark my words, this guy, he's like a more expensive Telvin Smith kind of when he went there. He's a rookie, obviously. He's the first linebacker selected in the draft this year, and he's just like a blitz maniac, which means he's going to be in the backfield a lot, getting a ton of pressures. Just a freak, just a total freak. And I think that as a rookie, he honestly has potential to fit. He will definitely finish in the top 24 among linebackers scoring in our league. Whether or not he gets in the top 12, I don't know. I see it year in, year out, people will overpay for rookie linebackers. And rookie linebackers tend to struggle from an IDP perspective. We saw it this past year's draft class. Like Micah Parsons was the extreme exception there. Everyone else pretty much was like, at least until the later half of the year. So I do think Devin Lloyd is the guy. But top 12, I don't know about that. But definitely top 24, so worth getting. I expect him probably to go before Aiden Hutchinson, honestly. Even though Aiden's probably my number 1 IDP player. I just think that Devin Lloyd is a safer... No, I shouldn't say safer bet. It's just that there's not as much linebacker depth in this draft class compared to defensive line. So that's why I think Devin Lloyd will go early, because someone's going to lock up their starting linebacker in the rookie draft by getting him easily. So another guy to be on the lookout for. I think going a couple different ways here with the other ones. But another guy I like was Kayvon. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm going to be honest. Coming out of Oregon, went to the Giants. He is he's another player in a great position to have a day 1 impact there with the Giants. I think that a lot of people were extremely happy about him. I know there were comments going into the draft about him not being as committed to football as some of the other pass rushers. People worried about like his work ethic and so forth, kind of like Jadeveon Clowney, I guess, to some degree. But Kayvon, day 1 starter, day 1 fantasy starter, in my opinion, too. But I think you got to go Aiden Hutchinson over him day in, day out. I expect Kayvon to go probably a round to 3 rounds later than Aiden Hutchinson, which would be just a pure value pick. Even if you don't even need a defensive lineman, totally worth taking if that's the case. Next up, I think you can go in a couple different ways here. Kyle Hamilton, safety, went to Baltimore. They could... There's rumors about them trading Chuck Clark, which would be just like huge, because Kyle Hamilton definitely likes at the starting position at that point as safety. Whether or not that happens, I'm not sure. I mean, he could still become, the starter, but just be aware of that. The Ravens do have other options. They do have other options, so just hold off. Don't overpay for him. Obviously, there's going to be a decent amount of defensive back depth in this draft anyways in the LCC, the regular draft. So I think Kyle Hamilton's probably a later pick, but definitely a steal for whoever gets him. And then, I got to say, honestly, Nakobe Dean, who got drafted by the Eagles, he may not play in 2022. And because of that, I don't think you should get him in the rookie draft. but I do think it might be worth getting him late in the regular draft. That way you have the option of cutting him if you don't want to hold him. But the only reason he fell so far in the draft was because of medical issues and so forth. I just think that he is a guy who has great potential, but how much you get out of him in 2022, I am not exactly sure. So keep that in mind. But Dean really probably has the best skill set of any interior linebacker in this draft. Going to Philadelphia, they need a good interior linebacker anyway. So keep him on your radar. I don't think you need to get him in the rookie draft. You can if you want. If you do it very late. Because again, you may not see him this season because of injuries and so forth. Another guy I'll talk about too. A lot of edge rushers in this rookie class, which just, again, increases that depth I was already telling you about for defensive linemen in this draft. So just keep that in mind. But George Karlaftis, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that, for the Chiefs. He's a guy to look out for too. I think that he's going to be a later pick, and another guy I think that gets someone's going to get a steal because of that. But I do think he's going to be more of that probably 6th to 8th round pick in the rookie draft, and a total bargain pick at that point too. Just another guy to really look out for in the Chiefs defense that I think that needs some good pass rushers. And I'll probably wrap it up here because I didn't expect this podcast to be as long as it is right now. Honestly, I wasn't really expecting it. But if you're looking for a linebacker, another one to keep in mind is Channing Tindall, who went to the Miami Dolphins. Now, he could be one of the bigger steals. He doesn't have a lot of experience coming in, which is kind of why he didn't go as early. But he played for Georgia last year. He was great. He's not much of a coverage guy, which does make me worry about him working his way up the depth chart in Miami. But we all know the best IDP linebackers are the guys who suck at coverage because they're letting the guy catch the ball and then they're making the tackle. And in our league, that's money, baby. You can't miss out on that. So Channing Tindall, I don't know if he'll start day one. It might be later. Who knows? But maybe for 2023. Last year, Jameson overpaid for Jamin Davis. I overpaid for my rookie linebacker too. But you get to keep him free the next year, so it could be worth it, honestly. Someone to monitor. I don't know if you need to use a rookie pick or not, but someone to watch out for. And I gotta mention him. He was the first pick in the draft. Trevo Walker, another edge rusher. I really think the Jags, man, overpaid for this guy. I feel like, but definitely someone again who's gonna be starting pretty much day one. It's just so loaded, man. The LCC draft class for edge rushers and defensive tackles that I just don't know how early these guys go, but they're all worth drafting. I think all of these guys are worth rostering on your team, regardless if you already have your starting defensive lineman set. And honestly, if you already have them set, then even more reason to go get one of these guys so you can keep him next year free, get rid of the other guy, let him walk, or trade him. Just to have that depth piece. We all know sometimes depth is the difference maker between a team making the playoffs or not making the playoffs and winning a league championship. Well, guys, that's all I got for this episode. Not too long, but again, I wasn't actually expecting to run almost 30 minutes. So hope you all enjoy it. I'll catch you guys next week as we get closer and closer to the rookie draft. There's going to be a lot more rookie draft content as we get closer. And analyzing the teams that enter picks in and what their needs are and where they might go. Might even do a rookie draft mock draft like we did last year. But I'll catch you guys next week. Have a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And we'll see y'all later.